Good morning, and we welcome you back to day two of coverage of the official visit of the President of India, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is day two of the visit to this beautiful country of ours, and we welcome you to our broadcast. My name is Dion John, and I'm joined this morning on set by Colvin Harry in his Curta pajama attire.
Yes,
It is, right?
That's what
yes, it is. Good morning, Colvin, and welcome.
Good morning again, Dion. And yes, this is day two of what is now a 3-day visit, concluding tomorrow. Packed day compared to yesterday. Yesterday was just the arrival and a smaller part of the proceedings as it relates to the welcome and the actual official visit. But today, quite a number of items on the agenda, inclusive of the Botanical Gardens, Parliament, Government House, a host of events as part of this 3-day visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines by His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, the President of the Republic of India. And we hope that you will be able to stay with us as we do coverage during the course of the day today, inclusive of the later portion at Calder. We'll be live on location to bring that to you as well. So we ask that you stay with us.
And this morning, just to begin with, like you mentioned, we've got several activities planned today, and we have no doubt the proceedings from the House of Parliament in St. Vincent, from Parliament in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I think that will be one of the high point in terms of the relations between both countries. You get an opportunity to hear the president, to hear from the Indian president, and also to hear from our prime minister and the leader of the opposition, and also the speaker of the House of Assembly. I think another high point will be the interaction in Calder, and this event is being dubbed as a community event. And I know you're inundated with calls, and people are asking how can they get to Calder? Would they get an opportunity to meet and to actually see the president? So there are some high points today, and we certainly look forward to all the activities. But just to begin, today in terms of our broadcast, let's sort of recap what happened yesterday. And we will share with you, our viewers and our listeners, will share with you some of the memorable points from yesterday's visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And what happened yesterday?
Well, yesterday we had the arrival at approximately 12:46 in the afternoon, and that is when we had the Air India One, which is the official transport of the President of the Republic of India, touchdown at the Argyle International Airport. We had a welcome ceremony there. He was also greeted along with his wife and his daughter Swati with students from the surrounding primary schools waving the Indian flags. And following that event, to see for those viewing footage of yesterday's event at the Argyle International Airport, he was met with, first of all, Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan, Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who introduced him to the Honourable Prime Minister, who from there introduced all the members of Parliament who were present and their spouses to the President. After that, it was a bit of rest for the President after the hotel, and the latter part was a bit of what I call a sunset cruise.
Yes.
A sunset cruise. It got going a bit later than anticipated, but certainly made for a greater experience as the sun was setting at the point in time where the two catamarans left for the leeward coast. And from the feedback and from the photos and the video clips that I've seen, it was quite an experience for the delegation who went on that trip down the leeward coast. And I'm sure the memories from yesterday's trip will be etched in their minds as they go back home. Today, a bit more of a formal sort of day for the most part, inclusive of Parliament and the MOUs being signed, and of course the function at the Gardens.
And His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, the President of India, will be engaged in a series of discussions today with Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan. And then these discussions will then take place with Prime Minister Dr. the Honourable Ralph Gonsalves, and as you mentioned, the signing of some memoranda of understanding as well. Just to let persons know that Ramnath Kovind was born on October 1st, 1945, and the life that he has led in terms of his outstanding contribution to public service. He's had several roles in terms of throughout his life in public service, and we'll share some of those with you. And he was sworn in as India's 14th president in July of 2017. And throughout the promulgation of the presidential orders in August of 2019, he was instrumental in the revocation of the states, now Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory. And that's something we just wanted to lay on the table as part of the research that we have done. But he has led a life of public service, and I'm trying to figure out where I have that somewhere in our notes, and if you're able to find it quicker than I am able to. But this is another opportunity for Vincentian people to see the president. We didn't see much of him apart from his arrival at the airport, because I think when you realize that he did not go on the cruise yesterday, was just the first lady and his daughter and the other officials. So persons will now get an opportunity to see him. Yesterday they might have been engaged in other activities, and the Vincentian public will now get an opportunity as he make his way into the central business district of capital Kingstown, alighting from his car, taking the guard of honor in the courthouse yard. And you know the significance of that. Just picture the ceremonial opening of Parliament here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and you get an idea of what will happen this morning when he arrives at the House of Parliament in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. His wife, who is accompanying him on this trip as well, she will not be going to the House of Assembly, but would rather spend time with the students and the teachers at the School for Children with Special Needs. And clearly going through her bio there is an overwhelming sense of love and appreciation for her for children. And we mentioned yesterday that during the pandemic she was instrumental in terms of sewing face masks, and you know how important face masks were during the outbreak, especially when the outbreak was just really just causing great havoc across the world.
Yes, and as First Lady of the President of India, being First Lady to the 14th President, we must note as well that President Kovind is the 14th President of the Republic of India. She has spent quite a lot of time in the civil service, of service to her country. Incidentally, her ancestral homeland is actually Pakistan. Lahore, Pakistan is where she's originally from, and her time spent in service to India, and of course as the First Lady, her duties are all part captured in this visit. Today we expect to have some visuals from those events as well, side by side with what's happening at Parliament later during the course of our broadcast. So as we continue with coverage, we welcome you if you're just joining us. For those who just joining in, who were with us yesterday and continue with our coverage today across the platforms, VC3 Television, also on the social media platforms of VC3 Television, the Agency for Public Information, and NBC Radio. And of course, those who are joining us via NBC Radio, we say good morning to you as well, or good afternoon if it is that you're joining us from another time zone.
So our coverage continues on VC3 Television, the Agency for Public Information, NBC Radio, and of course VC3 as well, their social media pages on NBC Radio, and Star Radio is also joining us for this broadcast. And I believe all the other media outlets in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at some point will be connected in one way or form or the other to this broadcast. And as my co-host Calvin Harry mentioned, we greet you and we welcome you, and we're happy that you're spending what will be most of your day with us. There are several stages and phases which we'll go through today. Just a short while, and our team is already positioned at Government House, where we will bring you the the ceremonial part of it, where the meeting, the arrival and the meeting of Her Excellency and the Prime Minister, and the signing of several memoranda of understanding. There will also have the walk from the Botanic Gardens going down to the steps into the, from Government House, sorry, going down to the steps in the Botanic Gardens, and then you would see the usual visit to the aviary. There will be steel pan sides, children and what have you at the gardens, just giving them an opportunity to see other aspects of the Vincentian culture. And I am sure members of your organization on the ground, Calvin, would use the opportunity as well to retrace some aspects of the history and the community of Calder. That village in the interior is definitely going to be will be taking center stage at some point in time today as part of the broadcast for the remaining of that main road leading into Calder. And just to let persons know, if you're moving in that general vicinity today, you're asked to, if you have to be at a place for a certain time, please try to see if you can move a little bit earlier than usual, as there will be diversions of many kinds in and out of that community because of the length of the convoy which is expected to move into that community this afternoon. Yes. So please try as much as possible. If you have to, let's say, pick up the children at about 3 o'clock, or there have you into Kingstown, or you've got to move or have appointments, or just whatever you're doing, if you've got to be there for a particular time, try to leave a bit extra earlier than usual, because there will be some traffic diversions along that route.
Yes, and as you rightly mentioned, Calder being a significant, an important location, I should say. We mentioned yesterday some of the communities where we have those of Indian descent still residing today, and Calder being one of the hot spots. Richland Park, another, Park Hill, Rosebank. These are the general areas you'll find people of Indian descent. But as the Prime Minister, the Honourable Prime Minister mentioned yesterday, there's a well beyond a diplomatic connection with India. There's a bloodline connection, as he puts it, where the descendants of those who came some 161 years ago in 1861 came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in search of opportunities, to gain employment, to better themselves and their families. Some 2,475 Indians in total came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, with a total of 7 ships coming in the course of that 20-year period up until 1880. Incidentally, they landed at Edinburgh and not at Indian Bay, as people have assumed over the years that the landing was at Indian Bay. It was actually at Edinburgh. And they've since scattered across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the region, and the rest of the Vincentian diaspora.
And what you're seeing on your screen, if you're looking at this broadcast, is the Government House. That's what you're seeing on your screens there. The drone is up, and that's what you're basically seeing there. So you see the lush green vegetation just surrounding the Government House, where the official business of where the Governor General are really. That's where her office is, and that's where she is when she's in office. So that's what you're seeing on your screens there. We will, of course, ask our pilot if he can just give us a flyover shortly of the Botanic Gardens. Am I using the right terms, Colin?
Yes, a flyover.
Yes, a flyover of a flyby of the Botanic Gardens, and we anticipate that we'll see that. But our team is already in place at Government House and at the House of Assembly as well. So we've got advanced team, as we mentioned yesterday. The total sum of our broadcast is not just necessarily the two of us, so you would see on your screen most of the time. But there's quite a lot in terms of, I think it probably might even be more than that today. But we have a very large team in place today for us to be at advanced points and to always be able to capture the scenes just before they happen. So we have the shots up on screen before. So if we can just ask our production crew to just give us some addition. Well, we're going to stay here, yes. I'm wondering if we can just, the Prime Minister.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes.
It appears to be the Prime Minister just
So arrived. If we can just have a shot of that. Yes, that's Prime Minister Gonsalves.
He's quite appropriately dressed this morning, as suspected.
Well, I think Colvin and I, we need to confess. I think one of the things we were looking forward to as part of this broadcast is to see Prime Minister Gonzalez in that suit. Outfit. Yes, and I think we need to confess. We need to confess. I think that's all we've been talking about. Seeing him in this particular way, and that's what do you call this one he's wearing? Is that?
This is also the full Curta suit, but this is more for a formal, for official functions, and quite appropriate in terms of an official function that you would normally wear a tie-in suit to. It works quite well in the place of that. And I also see his wife, Mrs. Gonzalez, accompanying him this morning as they share some greetings. And of course, this outfit is one of those made by the tailor for Prime Minister Modi.
Yes, Prime Minister Modi.
The friend of the All Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, His Excellency. And as we see a bit of a conversation happening now between the Prime Minister and two of, I suspect, members of the visiting delegation, possibly members of the Indian media who are advanced and there already. And as we go through the course of the day today, we'll see them in our shots here and there as they do their part as what we're doing today in bringing coverage to take back home and to feed into their various outlets in India. But a great day in terms of weather-wise. Checked in with the Met Office this morning. It appears to be another dusty, hazy sort of day, but outside of that, the threat of rain is quite small. So that being the case, the expectation is that rain wouldn't really be a factor in today's weather. So we expect as things to go quite smooth on the weather side, and we continue to bring you all the action as it happens from the various locations, from Government House, from the Gardens, from the House of Parliament, and later on today on location in Calder. We'll be moving our setup to Calder and transmitting from Calder later on for that event in that community.
Well, I think it is also very important that, especially if you're heading on the outside, and that's one of the things in our exchange with the Met Office this morning, on our way here, that the dust is going to be a prominent feature. So we advise that you really keep your mask on, because
especially
that is it is going to help, especially if you have what's that, sinusitis and asthma and all of those sort of things. Yeah, definitely you've got to be careful.
Oliver, one member of our team, having a photo moment there with it, and I'm sure he'll be able to share that with us, so we can further share it across our platforms. But yes, our team is out this morning and they're all deployed, and the Calder is getting ready as well to make their setup, and we anticipate your company during the course of the day today. We expect shortly for the President, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, to leave his hotel for Government House. We see the Honourable Prime Minister already there. I'm not sure if the Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan, is there at the moment, but we do know that the Honourable Prime Minister is already there, and we suspect any moment now we'll be seeing the convoy of vehicles, quite a number of vehicles, just 6 to the media alone, just to give you an idea, and the remaining vehicles allotted to members of the delegation and those who are doing official duties, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, etc. So we have a beautiful shot now of Government House, just on the skirts of the Botanic Gardens, just literally sitting in the Botanical Gardens, for those who know where Government House is, and recently renovated and looking very formal this morning for the proceedings there. Very official event taking place there moments from now. The MOUs which will be signed during the course of the day: an MOU on health and medicine, an MOU on automatic exchange of information and assistance in collection of taxes, and an MOU on establishing the Center of Excellence in ICT. We all mentioned those yesterday as areas, particularly in ICT and in medicine, where India is known to excel in those particular areas, and they are part and signing this very important document, or these documents, these memoranda, today as part of this ceremony at Government House. So we hope that you'll be able to stay with us. We'll of course continue with our coverage right through until we wrap up at Parliament for the first portion. Then we'll take a break and resume later this afternoon from the community of Calder. So an extensive day of coverage for you across all of the platforms, radio, television, and social media.
Well, thank you very much, Colvin, and we are still here with you from the studios at VC3 in capital Kingstown. So we have some aerial shots of the government house here at St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And one of the things I want to take the time to appreciate and to admire and to celebrate is the greenery that we're seeing around Government House. We only remembered all too well the events of April 2021, and this was definitely not the scenes you would have seen coming out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at that particular time. So this, of course, is a time of celebration. We celebrate the greenery and the return of the greenery and how important that is at this particular time as we continue to rebuild and rise. And while we see that, we see the convoy is arriving,
see the flag of India,
which means that the president is on board, and we will see him alighting from his vehicle shortly. So these are some of the official vehicles as part of the convoy. And we recognize as well the police, the ever-present police. They're always there to assist in terms of not only ensuring that the traffic is smooth, but to assist with things like parking. Of course, there's an influx of vehicles on one particular compound, so you need some assistance in terms of parking. And we see the close protection officer from St. Vincent and the Grenadines alights. He's just waiting for his signal to allow the president.
And the close protection officer for the president.
Yes, also there as well. And one of the things we did this morning as part of our research, when we say His Excellency or Honorable, that's akin to Shri, is
Shri,
it?
yes.
Shri
so it's
in
like
India.
saying sir,
right.
Addressing formally. So you might hear sometimes he's addressed as Shri Ramnath Kovind. It's like an equivalent of saying the Honorable Ramnath Kovind. For those who may have been hearing that interchangeably across the various platforms, the electronic media, that is one of the references, as you would say. But as he is a foreign leader, to us he's referred to as His Excellency. And back home he is conferred on Shri, or the Honorable Ramnath Kovind, President of the Republic of India, as a full title. But from a bird's eye view, I think we have our eye in the sky, set up and ready to go for another long day. And we noticed a while ago the arrival of the presidential vehicle, and
so we just want to see if we can get a little bit the ground shot. I think it is important at this particular time that once he alights from the vehicle that we're able to show that to our viewers. So we're just asking our folks in the production to see if that shot is available. And of course, every indication is there that they're working on bringing that for us. Thank you, guys. We know you're on cue and on the ball.
And of course, we have to keep in mind as well that there are certain security restrictions in getting close to His Excellency, and security would always dictate who can move where.
Yes.
And if it is that we have to shift a bit to allow for the proper security measures to be taken into consideration, we have to understand that as well.
Positioning and camera placement and all of those are some of the key things that you pay particular attention to at this particular time in the broadcast. So that's why we are here doing what we're doing, so that the local media who are unable to physically be there because of whatever other security measures and protocols are in place, they can have access to this. Otherwise, and remember, we have the photos and the videos available to share with you, so we would make those available as soon as we're able to share those with you in terms of the production. So by later today, we should have those images for you. The India media out in large numbers, in excess of 50-something of them are here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and there is the shot. Colvin?
His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, the President of the Republic of India, the 14th President of the Republic of India, now arriving at Government House, accompanied by his close protection officer, and trailed behind by the close protection officer on our local end. And he moves now to the hallway of the Government House, where we'll have the proceedings beginning shortly. There's a signing due to take place of the visitor's book. I believe that will be done as he enters the hallway. Photos will also be taken as he arrives as well, and there will be some private meetings, including one with Her Excellency, the Governor General, during the course of this segment of the visit this morning.
And I note that His Excellency is wearing the formal wear.
Yes.
You observe that
Yes.
he's wearing the formal wear.
Quite similar to what our Prime Minister is wearing.
Yes, it is, of course. And it's quite nice.
Of course, there are many different variants and styles, and for the females, the saris are a wide assortment of colors, and so many different shades to go with, and different combinations based on the event. And a very formal occasion, so it calls for a very formal approach to the wear in such an occasion, as a lot of photos will be taken, not just by the local media, but by the visiting media as well. That will be made available to the wider world, to the 1.3 billion who are looking on in India.
The signing for St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be done by the Chief Protocol Officer and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade on behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's Mrs. Sandy Peters Phillips. And on behalf of the Government of the Republic of India, the first Memorandum of Understanding on Health and Medicine will be signed by Mr. Shurabha Kumar, that's the Secretary East, on behalf of the Government of the Republic of India. And there, of course, while most of the agreements for St. Vincent and the Grenadines on behalf of the Government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be signed by the Chief Protocol Officer and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, there will be different persons who will be signing on behalf of the Government of India, and we'll walk you through, and that's what you're actually seeing here. I suppose the President is signing the visitor's book.
Yes.
At this particular point.
And
Her Excellency.
I believe that's what just transpired, the signing of the visitor's book. I see Her Excellency, the Governor General, is there as well. The President just exchanged greetings with the wife of the Prime Minister as well. So it's on to the next portion of the proceedings. So the signing is complete for the visitor's book. And
I note is that Mrs. King Campbell of the National Director of the National Archives, Libraries, there, who's just standing behind the desk, and we see they will of course go now to the private quarters, where there will be discussions will be held, and there of course will be picture moments, there will be photo moments.
You see the Indian media descending on that room.
Of course, that is expected.
To get their perfect shots.
That is expected. We have our orders, and they too as well.
Yes,
yes,
correct.
so that is expected.
And from time to time you may see a bit of a freezing of the frame and a few drops in between. Of course, we are contending with all our other media colleagues in getting the coverage just as they are, and we hope that you can bear with us as we make sure that we get you the best possible visuals and coverage to celebrate this unique occasion, the first visit of a sitting President of India to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to Jamaica as well, where he just came from. So it is indeed a special, a unique occasion, and one that will be noted in the history books going forward.
Well, it's definitely one for the history books, either way. And being involved in this visit in one way or the other is something that's noteworthy enough to be written in a diary, as this was done on May 19th of 2022.
Yes, and we go back to the welcome that the Prime Minister received when he visited India in 2019, in September of 2019. And there's still the visuals, you can see all the videos there online, and just making sure that we return that ceremonial welcome and all of the courtesies extended to a visiting head of state, being the President of India. But we're just getting started in what promises to be a day filled with symbolic events. This is a shot of the main hallway in the Government House. I can see in the distance there's a bit of a desk set up, and that's, I believe, where the MOUs will be signed, and the opportunity then for us to have some visuals there, some photographs, etc. I believe shortly we'll see them leaving the room, but before that there'll be a private engagement according to our information. So that may take a few minutes or so.
And how are we in terms of the schedule that we have? We're on time, or we're ahead of schedule?
We're pretty much on point because we're ahead of schedule, as a matter of fact. Like the sign-in was timed for about 10 minutes to about 5 minutes to 10, and it is 5 minutes to 10, and the signing is complete of the visitors book.
Okay.
And if all stays within the line of the promised times, then we should be on point for things to flow into the next segment down at the Botanic Gardens.
Well, just to remind you and to once again set the context for this visit, this of course is a tour of the Caribbean. Specifically, the president visited the first leg of the tour was to Jamaica, and from Jamaica he arrived in St. Vincent and the Grenadines yesterday just about 12:46 there at 12:46 p.m.
Yes.
And from then on it's just been a constant hive of movement. We had the yesterday a catamaran cruise down to the leeward end, and you say catamaran cruise and people think of fun and nice time, but that was more very infomercial sort of a setting where information was given. I saw footage earlier on of the person who was in charge of the local port authority, Carlos James, giving some information in terms of the operations of Port Kingstown, and speaking of which, on Monday of next week, Monday the 24th or 23rd it is of May, there will be the launch of the port modernization project, and you will see the significance of all of these activities and how closely twinned and interconnected they are. We also saw footage of the president of the local Indian Association, Junior Bacchus, making a presentation.
What the delegation is looking at now is the Indian Register.
Yes.
It's a copy of, well, not a copy, it's the original document, which was recently restored with the help of friends overseas, that contains the actual signatures and the fingerprints and the marks by the indentured laborers as they arrived. These preserved documents, as you see, they're wearing gloves when handling the document, captures the names, some of them not recognizable because of the difference in the language, the signatures of the British colonial powers who signed on their behalf, and quite intriguing, particularly for members of the Indian delegation, to see the signatures of their people and the fingerprints and some marks to show that their people came to this country in the 1860s through to the 1880s.
Well, I'm sure you must be very happy at this, because I remember earlier on in the year when we heard that there was a possibility of a visit. That was one of the things you told me then, that the foundation was at the point trying to ensure that this was in place.
Yes.
And I'm sure that this, of course, is a celebration for the local association here, in terms of having this, to be able to put it on display, that they can see this, and even to know that this document is available. Mm-hmm. So even members of the Indian descendants who are here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be able to go to our national archives and be able to see that. But no doubt, you have to remember that this has to be these are very delicate records, very, very delicate records.
Over 160 years old.
Yes.
In terms of their age, and some of them are, would be falling apart. So they're preserved now. The original register was in a dilapidated condition, of course, during the course of weathering and those years. But with the assistance of our friends overseas, we were able to restore that. And of course, with the input of Hon'ble Rainey Batiste, who has been a very, very good friend of the local Indian community. Particularly, she was the one responsible at the time as Minister of Culture for Indian Arrival Day to be recognized as June 1st and Indian Heritage Day. October 7th. Both days recognized in 2007 and officially recognized in Parliament through the work of the Honourable Rainer Batiste. So she's a very good friend of the, not just the foundation, but also to the Indian community in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We just spoke of the launch of the port modernization project, and I'm now being informed reliably that that ceremony has been rescheduled. A new date will be announced when the Prime Minister returns to the country from his visit to Cuba. And really and truly, Prime Minister did say that he's leaving. Yes, he will be traveling. So thank you very much.
You see, they're listening to us.
Thank you very much, LB. I am using that name from a mutual friend of ours who shared it with me some days back. So thank you very much, LAB. Thank you very much for that information. Of course, our coverage continues. Our cameras are stationed at the moment in the halls of Government House of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you know, one of the things that I'm always attracted to are the flowers, the tropical blooms.
You can always look forward to that.
Yes, you can definitely look forward to that. And they cease and they fail never to disappoint as it relates to that. So that's definitely something I look forward to seeing each and every time. I am just wondering if our production guys have the commercial or the ad break coming up shortly. So please stand by. We'll be taking a break in just a moment. So we just want to thank you so much for staying with us and for joining us as part of our coverage, coming to you from Government House on the morning of May 19th, 2022.
Right. And as we take a few minutes break from our transmission here at the studios of VC3 Television, once again, we say thank you so much for joining us at this point in time across the various platforms: VC3 Television, the National Broadcasting Corporation, the Agency for Public Information, and we hope that you continue to stay with us. We'll be back in just a bit. So we welcome you back to our continued coverage of day two of the state visit of His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, the President of the Republic of India. And when we broke a while ago, we had the scenes from the Government House where MOUs will be signed in a few minutes from now. I suspect in a few minutes. Well, I can see now that the stage is set and the proceedings is well underway there. I see now the representatives of India and of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In the back, the Honorable Prime Minister, President Kovind, and also Excellency the Governor General and the Ambassador based in Suriname, Ambassador Shankar, who is also present for this occasion. I'm not sure if we have the audio from there, and we can get.
We'll get that
we saw that
shortly in a while.
we see the signing coming to us from that location in just a bit. But we have a packed day ahead. In case you're just joining us, this is a second day of our coverage, and we continue into later today, where we'll be on location in Calder for the renaming of the Calder Road. And there's a ceremony slated to take place in that community, more of a community event, a bit of a community interaction later today as part of this official visit by the 14th President of the Republic of India, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, and his delegation also accompanying him, his wife Savita Kovind and his daughter Swati Kovind. They're all part of the trip to the islands of Jamaica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Tomorrow, the President will make his way to the Grenadines, Canouan to be specific, where there'll be a private engagement there with the Honorable Prime Minister, and of course some fruitful discussions I anticipate, as mentioned by the Prime Minister yesterday, will take place on that island. And we continue to forge a greater connection with the government and people of the Republic of India, in this case on the occasion of this state visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and earlier this week, Jamaica.
Yes, so we, like you mentioned, we have quite a lot in store, and as we continue to share with you some of the facts concerning the relationship between India and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I want to go back to a document on the East Indians and their arrival in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at Colvin. And I've always heard of the hurricane, of the Great Hurricane, I've always heard it been described as, of 1898. And of course the volcanic eruption of 1902, and both crippled the sugar industry and the estate system, which finally broke up with that system. So we have indication that the cameras are up, and we have audio.
Yes,
we have audio as well,
now.
so let's take that in.
And now the signing of the second MOU after a photograph. Thank you very much. And now the signing of the second MOU, and this one is on the refurbishment of the old Calder Community Center. Again, signing on behalf of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and signing on behalf of the Republic of India, His Excellency Dr. S. Balachandran. And as we did with the first one, we'll now have a photo. Thank you. And now, an official photograph with the delegates, and I ask for the assistance of the protocol teams on this one for the official photograph. Okay. This is wrapping up time, right? Wrapping up. All right. Thank you very much. And with that, we've come to the end of the ceremony, yes, which has concretized the agreements on the automatic exchange of information and assistance in the collection of taxes and the refurbishment of the old Calder Community Center. Thank you so much for joining us as the delegates now move on to a tree planting exercise in the Botanical Gardens. My name is Marlon Anton James. Thank you.
Okay, so we're back with you, and what you've just witnessed or just heard is the signing of memorandum of understanding, the first on health and medicine, the second on automatic exchange of information and assistance in collection of taxes, and the third, the establishing a center of excellence in ICT. But we have also heard of the MOU on the refurbishment of the old community center at Calder as well.
Yes, and I see in our shot there the Honourable Prime Minister introducing His Excellency to Dr. Bharati Datta, who's been in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for decades, and as a medical doctor, pediatrician, and appears to be quite a celebratory moment as they share some greetings there as we get ready for the next item on the agenda as we move to the lush green scenery at the Botanic Gardens. In a few minutes from now, we continue to bring you all of the footage from the various locations. Her Excellency now leading the delegation out of the Government House, and
I assume that they'll trek down to the gardens on foot as they did
for the royal visit.
Yes, there's a strong possibility that would happen. While we're not sure, we're assuming it is. But whether it's done that way or they use the vehicles, our team is already positioned and in place to ensure that we bring that part of the coverage to you. This morning at the Botanic Gardens, we're expected to have a welcome by the Minister, Honorable Carlos James, who is the Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture, and Mr. Andrew Wilson, Director of National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority. And by virtue of them being there to welcome the visiting delegation, the Minister, Carlos James, is responsible. The Botanic Gardens, the care of the Botanic Gardens falls under his ministry.
Yes.
And Andrew Wilson, in his capacity as the Director of National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, will be there to welcome them as well. It appears that he will leave on in the vehicle, and it does appear that that is what will happen. But we will keep our eyes trained and focus on that as we see Her Excellency shakes his hand once more, and he gets into his vehicle, and we see the necessary arrangements are now being made for the close protection officers and the other security personnel to head out as part of the convoy, which will no doubt take them to the Botanic Gardens, the oldest in the Western Hemisphere, which houses the sucker of the original breadfruit tree
plant,
brought
yeah.
here by Captain Bligh, sailing on the Mutiny of the Bounty. And we will be at the gardens. The garden is just, in fact, probably a minute or two away.
So I
There's
think
so
they'll be
much
using
at
the
all.
main entrance in this case.
And we will see the picturesque gardens spin around. The children will line the gardens, if we will see some aspects of that. And the India white sandalwood tree will be planted here this morning. I understand that's a tree that smells very well.
Yeah, that from what I've read, it's something that when you see it, you also smell it. It's a very fragrant. It produces a very fragrant flower, and when it matures, that is. But of course, a very small plant will be planted this morning. I see some visuals now from the entrance to the gardens, the top entrance, which comes down from Government House. As you rightly mentioned, students from various schools with the flags of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the flag of India, also lining the walkway down to the main gathering area where the tree would be planted. Quite similar to what we experienced, what we witnessed rather, with the royal visit some weeks ago.
The children themselves look forward to this as well, because I'm not sure if it's so safe to say the children will have bragging rights, but the children will no doubt go back and be with their classmates and celebrate, and the teachers will no doubt explain the significance of being at the garden this morning and how important to that. I believe the teacher will take out the map and show them where India's position on that world map. You know that map that is positioned on and you spin. You know that, right?
Globe.
Yes, that's the word, the globe.
Yes.
And I'm sure that the teacher will point out where India is, and when they return to the class would say, then can you tell what happened this morning at the gardens and so forth. So we expect all of this. You know what it's like being in a classroom setting to see all of that. I recognize the children of being at, what school is that? Is that the Stony Ground Primary?
Looks like the Kingstown Government School, or Lodge Village
Primary.
Yes, Lodge Village Government
and the
School.
Stony Ground, which is now the Kingstown
Government
School. It's there so far. And they are aware of the attention that they're getting, and they will definitely be on their best behavior more than ever here.
The teachers are watching as well.
The teachers are watching, and everyone else is watching. If you're not there, they're watching via TV anyway.
And you mentioned earlier the pointing to the actual country of India on the map. It's not a very large country by land size. It's 2,973,000 square kilometers in size, but in terms of population, it's 1.3 billion with a B.
Yeah, but I don't know, how do you make the difference by saying it's not large in terms of land size? No. I know. It depends on what you're comparing it to, right? So you have to put that in, right? You have to put that into a particular context, because how do you say that to me coming from a square mile of 150 kilometers? Now I look at you as if you're crazy.
Well, we see now the official transport of His Excellency. I believe the Prime Minister just behind. We saw footage a while ago of him leaving the Government House. So a bit of a change compared to what we saw with the royal visit, where they're using the main entrance and the President arrives through that entrance.
Well, you're dealing with a totally different dynamics again. The president is more older in years, and you would have an appreciation for that, and I think rightly so. And you have to take every precaution.
It's very warm today.
You have to take everything into. It has to be viewed as a whole. The contending with the heat, and of course coming down the stairs as an elderly man, and you.
It's a lot of stairs coming down.
It is a lot. It is a lot, and I won't even attempt that today in a day like today that is so
very
hot.
Warm, dusty day.
I would try to avoid that at every cost.
All right, as we await the further visuals from the Botanic Gardens, where this symbolic occasion will take place, the planting of the tree, which will signify another important milestone in the connection between India and the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The India white sandalwood tree is what it's commonly referred to as. It's internationally known as. but the scientific name
Santalum
is
album.
Santalum album is
Yeah.
the scientific name. Generally, the scientific names are difficult to pronounce, but this one is not one of those, fortunately. And today we'll see this tree being planted at the gardens, and maybe down the line, the visit of a future president of India, they'll be able to see that as a mature tree with the flowers, the beautiful white and different hues in terms of the flowers and the fragrance that comes from that tree.
Well, this tree has been transported from India for them to get to plant it here today. And I am tying that into the conversation you started a while ago. So there would be a plaque which will reflect the date of when it's planted, the name of the tree, scientific and its common name, and who it has been planted by. You just made reference to the fact that a young president coming sometime down the road may just be able to look at that. But you go back to the visit of the royals, the Countess of Wessex, and Prince Edward it is, right?
Yes.
They were able to go back and look at the tree, which they planted in 2012. So the history is repeating itself, and once there's signage, you always have an opportunity that you can go back and review and see all of that. So the labeling is there, and the president is now meeting with the little ones. I see he is admiring what you call it, the hairstyle or a plait, and he's holding it up. Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, he's holding it up. I think he did indicate that he wanted to meet specifically with the children, that he wanted to see the children.
Like his wife.
Yes, he wanted to see and meet with the little ones.
And of course, as he walks by, they're waving the flags of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and that of India. And he's accompanied close behind by his close protection officers. And the ambassador who represents St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ambassador Balanchandran,
who's based in Suriname.
Yes. So our closest embassy in terms of where St. Vincent and the Grenadines connects to is actually in Suriname. I see the president being given some information there about what he's looking at, as we customarily see. Maybe you can identify this. Yes, he's been shown the signage about the Amazona Gildingi.
So which means that he will be going shortly across the bridge to the Avery. Yes, it looks like the elevation. Yes, that's the elevation there that takes you right into the Avery. And just alongside, when you come out and you head down the other side, you will see the cannonball tree, which some people refer to as the comb and brush tree, for common name, but it's scientifically is a cannonball tree. It blooms it comes up at 6 and it dies at 6. Generally, the cannonball tree. So we look at that.
Yes, and as we see more footage coming out of the Botanic Gardens.
See Fitzgerald Providence.
Director of Forestry. And I suspect he's been told all about the scenery, the greenery that we're seeing in the gardens, and all of the sights, and you hear about the songs in a bit of the national bird, which he'll get to experience firsthand. Of course, this must be a unique experience for His Excellency, like the royals who came here several weeks ago, and having a bit of a direct interaction with our national bird. And I do realize that every moment possible, the media is asking for a photo moment. I just had one of those where he quickly took a photo inside of the garden's enclosure. And we expect him to continue with his tour of the gardens.
He's actually leaving. He's actually leaving.
It doesn't appear they're going into the enclosure where our national bird is kept. So
his security team is definitely moving at a clip, and there is no time to waste, as you would see with them. They're ensuring that he's comfortable at every occasion, and just making the walk now around the ring road. And this is now being used part as a drive through the gardens you have to go through, but you now find people exercising mornings and afternoons, just to ensure they keep healthy as well. So he's just walking along, and where he is, if you're looking to his right, if we're not able to see that, but to his right would just be coming along the sign with the Alamander fountain, and where
yes.
the Alamander fountain is at that time, and the pond, the Alamander pond, just in front of that, where you would see like the little what you call them, the little millions, or the little
Million,
fish.
we call them locally the million fish. But
Yeah, tadpoles and those sort of, and shrubs and so in that general area there. He's now been joined by Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan, and they're just going to try to get up this slight elevation, and I believe the tree is going to be planted here.
And interestingly enough, this particular tree is considered sacred in India, particularly to the Hindus. There's something produced from it called sandalwood oil that is extracted from the mature plant, and it's considered a very sacred plant in Hinduism. And it's concentrated in Southeast Asia, particularly in India, and hence the reason it symbolizes the people of India. And the flower quite fragrant in its mature stages as well. So in the future, maybe when you go through the gardens, you'll be able to experience the true fragrance coming from this plant when it matures several years from now.
And you'll be able to know that because there will be signage around it. And one of the things you would note when trees are being planted like this by visiting dignitaries is that the trees are generally placed in their hole already, the hole that's dug, and you basically ceremonially would just take the shovel and take the sod and just basically cover it there. So we see that his hands are being cleaned at the moment as Her Excellency continues with having a discussion of some sorts with him that we would not. And I don't think it is the intent for us to hear. That's a private exchange, more or less. And we see the other trees in the garden, that the one that they're standing directly in front of, that tree name, I think is the pine. I can't remember that one, but it has something to do with pine. And over on the other side of that, you would have the traveler's palm. So that's where the traveler's palms are in the gardens. That would be to His Excellency's right.
His right, yes.
Right, there you would see the traveler's palm over in that area. And then in that end, you basically travel down now to what is the Lover's Lane. And we're not going to forget that name at all. The Lover's Lane, or the Hibiscus Lane, that generally takes you down to the other end of the garden. So let's see from where they're going to go at this particular point.
I see the Honourable Frederick Stevenson also now joining in on the delegation. Some conversations happening between His Excellency, His Excellency the President, and Her Excellency the Governor General. And from here we'll move to close off the happenings of the gardens, because this is a symbolic part of the gardens, and then we move to Parliament. But there's a bit of a cultural showcase that is expected as well, and that's why they're remaining in this position. As our camera pans out, you see the dancers getting ready to put on their piece.
And their dancing shoes?
And their dancing shoes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think are they wearing shoes?
No, they're standing on the grass, and that in itself is such an exhilarating feeling to be standing on the grass. Oh, tell me about it.
Except if you're allergic to it.
Yes.
Yeah. But quite an experience, I'm sure, for the students. And I did see some of those photos from the airport on social media with the parents sharing them and saying what a memorable day it was for their sons and their daughters to greet the president and share a photo. But the dance piece is on. I'm not sure if we're getting there's an audio that we'll get from there in terms of the musical accompaniment, but they are dancing to some sort of music. And as we continue to witness this piece from the Botanic Gardens, we of course have in line next another major event, the address to Parliament, a very formal ceremonial event as we have with visiting delegates. And we had that recently, at least twice within the last year or so, with visiting delegates addressing or appearing at Parliament. And
which one
today,
can you remember?
The royal visit, I think.
And then isn't it President of Ghana?
Ghana. Oh, that was several years ago, right?
Yes.
So I think
and President of Ghana and Taiwan.
And Taiwan.
Yes.
We had that several years ago as well. Those were two presidential visits in most recent times. Well, they're doing an Indian dance, that's for sure, and you can hear the instruments, the audio coming to us from the gardens.
I thought you knew this one and were going to describe this for us.
I'm not familiar with it.
This is out of your
It's a bit of a staple of Indian dance.
Yeah.
The melody is something that you generally hear, and the moves associated with it are well executed by the dance team. And I'm sure the president and his delegation are quite impressed that that our local dancers are taking up and learning the Indian dances.
And what is symbolic of these type of dance moves is that the tummy is generally exposed, the belly button, and what's the attire again? We just discussed that again.
Well, it depends.
Yeah?
Depends. The wear is different based on the piece that they're doing. We wouldn't necessarily have them wearing a sari for the dance, but that's a lot. But dance wear depends on what type of performance that they're doing.
And it's all symbolic of the hand movement in there. That's sort of there's a name that this is called. I can't remember all of that at this time, but
as we see another angle of that presentation, accompanying His Excellency is also Her Excellency the Governor General looking on, members of Parliament. I see Minister Stevenson is dancing as well.
Yes,
he's enjoying that.
He's having a go at it.
And the president is actually clapping along with the other members of the delegation. Quite impressed with what they're seeing here this morning. And Mr. Stevens is certainly using the opportunity to showcase his familiarity with the dancing as well.
Well, I think for him, this visit is really, how do I put it?
Well, it's important to him.
Because it's always within his constituency.
Not just called but the surrounding
right.
Associated with people of Indian descent, Aga, those regions are captured within his constituency. So for him, this is important. Mount Pleasant, all of these areas, and because of this, he's quite intrigued to be a part of the events today. You hear the applause in the distance by the Indian delegation, and the president has been clapping for quite a while. He's been moving ever so gently to the music as well.
The pictures, it's now time for the photo moment.
So they're having an opportunity to share another memorable moment, like the students from yesterday, with the president and his delegation. Her Excellency also in that photo. I see Minister Carlos James also, Ambassador Balanchandran, who is there as well, sharing the opportunity to have a photo taken. Of course, he's been on the ground for the last couple of weeks, working behind the scenes. A lot of logistical work to do in something like this, especially with the foreign ministry. They have had their hands full for the last 2 weeks in arranging for this visit, security, etc. And as you'd imagine, the culmination of all of those efforts yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Well, most people only get to see the finished product.
True.
And the same holds true for our broadcast and what we're doing here. People only get to see this part of it, but there's quite a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in terms of meeting with the health officials, ensuring that you have doctors and nurses assigned to the visiting delegation, and a house that the various hotels where the delegations are staying, that due care and attention is being paid to the traffic and the diversions of the traffic that are likely to take place, to ensuring that all the right colors are used and the places which are chosen to be visited are in keeping with their bios in terms of what they represent,
Right.
in terms of the social part of what they do and so forth. So a lot happens behind the scenes. No doubt the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will act as chair and bring to the table all the relevant stakeholders. The media is involved in this case in particular. The
Local
Agency
media.
for Public Information, the local media, falls under the ambit of the Agency for Public Information when it comes to activities of this nature in particular,
Right.
because the space, of course, and the other restrictions, everyone is not able to be at every place. So you'll have advanced teams here and there. And the protocol officers, you have to make sure that food and all those things are taken care of. So there's a lot that happens
happening
behind the scenes.
Yes. And of course, taking care of all of that behind the scenes is the Deputy Director, Nadia Slater, who's handling the media and all of the various happenings behind the scenes there as well, as we do all of this for you. Some entertainment being provided on PAN. PAN seems to be quite of interest to the delegation. We've had a number of occasions where PAN has been featured, and today being no different. But if we can segue to a bit of the music, we could get a bit of the music out
Yeah.
of the gardens.
So this is a smaller contingent
Yes.
of the Starlift Steel Orchestra headed by Kingsley Hero Roberts out front. Just a smaller segment of the oldest steel pan side here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, having won the most panorama champs in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Oh yes, and their players are doing outstanding in terms of yes, whether when it comes to sound knowledge and education, you have Said Bowman who's excelling, national scholar who's excelling, and there's so many of them who are doing very well and performing exceptionally well.
Yes.
And no doubt you would understand why they are here on showcase here holistically, being in terms of not only having the book sense, as they would say, but you've been able to transfer that as well to the playing of this musical instrument. And while all that is happening at the Botanic Gardens, and those will remain in place just for a few more minutes, the delegation and the convoy heads from the Botanic Gardens, and there will be a split in terms of the convoys, because His Excellency will now travel to the House of Assembly, where our team headed by Antonia Richards is on standby, and we will bring that to you. And then his wife, the First Lady, will now travel to the School for Children with Special Needs, where she will be as well. So we will see how much of that we're able to bring to you as part of our coverage here this morning. Just looking at my timepiece,
Very
and
good
it's
timing,
yeah, we're definitely
very good timing.
Maintaining good time this morning.
Yes, and you mentioned as we were wrapping up that portion at the Gardens, Starlift, and it's referred to as an institution.
Yes,
If you
it
ask,
is.
Anyone, especially the hero, he'll tell you this is an institution, and we are not just teaching PAN, but we're teaching you life skills. You know, it's much bigger than just learning to play PAN. And as we end off that segment and we get ready for the next item, you mentioned the First Lady. I see that he's expected to be accompanied by Her Excellency as well on that visit. I realized a while ago that Her Excellency had left before the rest of the delegation, so I suspect she's in the process of joining the First Lady, Savita Kovind, who will be now moving to the School for Children with Special Needs, and the next stop by His Excellency the President will be at the House of Assembly. So hopefully we'll have visuals, at least some visuals for you of the First Lady making that stop, and a tour. There's a tour happening at the School for Children with Special Needs as well, and an official photo will be taken there. The handing over of a check will take place there as well to the Governor General for the charitable fund. So that's a photo op will be coming there as well, as we see some more footage of the Botanic Gardens, as in the distance you see the outrider leaving and the rest of the delegation, students waving the flags of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and that of India. A very warm morning, a bit of a dusty environment today. It's a bit hazy, but no rain, and that's good. All for a smooth flow of things and in perfect timing so far. The next item on the agenda as it relates to the engagement by His Excellency will be at Parliament. See, there's a bit of a dancing going on by one of the teachers there, and their pairs of children some of them are singing along to whatever it is they're singing there as well as they wave the flags. But certainly a celebratory occasion as we welcome the 14th President of the Republic of India.
And of course, you're celebrating in excess of 30-something years. When you have your 30-something birthday, it's
30
years in itself is a milestone, and we're celebrating in excess of 30 years here. So it's definitely a cause for a celebration.
And 161 years of a bloodline connection.
Correct.
All of that is in the mix as well. So well outside the realms of just a diplomatic connection, but the bloodline connection, as rightly put by the Honourable Prime Minister yesterday. And momentous occasion. So much so that you're wearing your curtain pajama today.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, and you look very well in
thank
it, though.
You.
Yes, I think I share the sentiments of the entire production team when I say that you look very well. In fact, they're asking you.
Today. I was messaged several times yesterday. So why were you not wearing some sort of Indian outfit? I said, just look at the coverage today, and we'll take care of that part.
And I think you wanted to make sure that the people of Calder see you in your Indian outfit too, right?
Well, we'll see about that.
Oh my, Colvin, you are exceptional. So we want to thank you so much for joining us and for being part of our broadcast. And in fact, a wonderful friend of mine just says that you look very well. Yes?
Do give them my regards. And
thank you.
But I'm not sure if we have our eye in the sky back as yet. We also have that on standby. Our pilot here, Zoro. We know him as Zoro, but his name is Rohan. He's taking care of the visuals from the air for us. And a bit, I suspect, we'll hear the sound of the drone on the outside going up to give us some visuals. But the movement is on now to the next big event on the agenda. Parliament is always a very formal, ceremonial event, so we expect no difference today with this, and we look forward to the address by the President, which we'll have for you broadcast across all of the platforms as well as part of our coverage here today. Later today, we're headed to Calder at that ceremony expected to start at about 4:30. But of course, if you're making your way there, it's wise that you do so well before, because of the diversions of traffic and of course the security measures in place on this occasion. It's a community event, and all part of the experience today.
Well, what we want to do quickly is to take in a word from our sponsors. Well, not so much our sponsors. We just want to take a quick commercial break, but have to make sure that our production team is able to take that break at this moment. There are so many things that's happening behind the scenes here and ensuring that we're ready for you. And it doesn't appear that they'll be able to do that, so we'll just have to continue at this point. But we're getting ready for the transition nonetheless. Yes. And I look forward to this part of the broadcast, seeing the guard of honor. So then this is now going into what is considered the central business district, the heart of Kingstown, opposite the vegetable market in Kingstown. So you expect that the market vendors and all those persons who are in that general area, the people from the stores in the nearby vicinity will actually come out and witness all of that. Yes. As is normally the case when we're doing the guard of honor in the yard of the courthouse. When it's budget time, we would see them and make reference to them standing on the top of the market, standing at the top of Carrez and at the outside of the magistrate's court there, what have you. Across by Building and Loan, you see people peeping out at their windows, and generally on the streets. That area is a hive of activity, being basically the heart of Kingstown, the central business district, and there's quite a lot of movement is anticipated around that general area there.
Yes, and we started earlier by telling you about the bloodline connections.
Yes.
And there's a particular important, phases, right, I should say. There are phases
Yes.
of that journey by the Indian immigrants to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which started in 1861 with the first arrival. It was also the beginning of the indentureship system. The estates were consolidated between 1862 and 1865, where there was a bit of a revival of sugar in the 1870s, which led to the need for more laborers to come into the picture. As sugar declined, so did the need for other workers or other indentured laborers to come in. And between 1850 and 1855, 1885,
Yes.
It marked the end of the system and the last arrivals. In addition to that, there was also the arrivals of the Madeiran to complement those that were there, which can, is another part
bit of the
my family
history.
line.
Yes.
The Madeirans who came here in the 1860s as well to complement those who are already here. So it's a very long history of connections there, bringing into focus the Madeirans who are also part of that journey as well over the years. And this afternoon, the community in Calder will have an opportunity to interact. I'm not sure how close, obviously security reasons, but an opportunity to interact with the President of India on this occasion.
Yes, Calvin, that is so true, and we're just waiting for the visuals going through the streets of Kingstown, and once we have that, or we have the House of Assembly up, we will share that with you. We will share that with you. So we just wait to see what's happening as it relates to that. As we mentioned, we are a bit ahead of schedule, and we thank you so much. And we're getting, yes, we're hearing the right. And I'm just seeing the orange bottle brush hybrid tree, some images of that in the gardens. That's where the vehicles were parked, just in the Botanic Gardens, and it's actually blooming a lot at this particular time. So thank you very much. I should probably say correspondent Flavia for sharing that with us. Thank you so much for always joining us and for being a part of our broadcast.
And the document I was quoting this historical information from, incidentally, the author is listening, and he just asked me to make a slight correction.
What's that?
The Madeirans arrived in 1854. I think I said 1864, so it's actually 1854, and as part of that, whole cohesive working together in terms of the labor force.
Won't you want to say who the author is to give them credit at this time?
This was compiled by Lenroy Thomas, who is based in Turkey and who recently released a book capturing the experiences of our Indian elders, those of Indian descent, across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This article was one that was written by Lenroy Thomas and published in 2006. Documenting the historical connections between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and India as well. So thank you very much for Lenroy Thomas for sharing that with us for our preparations today.
And we do thank all those persons who are checking in with us and filling in the gaps as we go through. Not many gaps, I must admit, but we want to thank you for your feedback, always. And just to let you know that we appreciate more than ever are your comments and your support at all this time, and we just see they're just arriving.
Her Excellencies at the School for Children with Special Needs,
where they're meeting with the principal at the School for Children with Special Needs. Her name escapes me at this moment, but I'll tell you that very shortly. But she's Her Excellency is accompanied by Captain Philip Cambridge, the ADC. And
this is also an opportunity for the First Lady to interact firsthand with the children at the School for Children with Special Needs. She has a very special place in her heart for children, and we mentioned that during the course of our broadcast yesterday and today. And I'm sure that she will cherish this moment, spending time with the children at that school. And while that is happening, on the other end, and just on the other side of Kingstown, we're getting ready for Parliament.
And we see the Katyan Bano Scott, the Cabinet Secretary, is now at the entrance of the School for Children with Special Needs, speaking along with Permanent Secretary Catherine Joyett, it looks like, and the Director of Foreign Policy, Mozart Carr, now speaking to Captain Philip Cambridge, the ADC to the Governor General, and just some sort of a discussion or exchange.
They're supposed to have a tour, so I suspect it's related to the tour and what will happen on that tour. As the First Lady arrives, of course, there's a particular fashion in which it would go a particular order, and I'm sure that they just want to make sure that everything is clear to everyone as to what is expected during the course of this. What is expected to be a relatively short visit, mostly for photos. There wouldn't be any speeches, we should note that. As far as we know, there wouldn't be any particular addresses, just the interaction, the photo op, and the presentation of a donation to the charitable organization that supports that particular school. So we look forward to the events as they unfold in the capital city, Kingstown, today. A hive of activity on the occasion of the visit of the president. A side-by-side shot now of what's happening at Parliament and the courtyard, as promised by our team. We're able to have eyes at two different locations at this time, and we recognize the guards that are there, all smartly uniformed as per usual. A very large number I see this morning. Generally it varies depending on the nature of the event. But I do see that the presidential vehicle is there. Yes, there it is. And momentarily we'll see him
alighting
from the vehicle. He, of course, is accompanied by the close protection officers, local and visiting. And
it's looking very looking very refreshed.
Yes.
From his trip at the Botanic Gardens, and I think he's probably going through. Well, I'm not sure. I thought for a minute he was just going to probably go to interact.
I believe he wanted to interact, but of course,
security, yes,
and not just security, but there's a particular timing for everything that has to be strictly followed. And I think his team indicated to him that let's go this direction. The Honourable Prime Minister and the other members of Parliament are awaiting. See the Honourable Speaker of the House sharing greetings.
The Deputy Clerk, Mrs.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition has shared some greetings as well. And the movement quickly to the Assembly Chamber will happen. But before that, there's a bit of a ceremony that has to happen, the Royal Salute, which will take place in the courtyard of Parliament, the Guard of Honour, and that mark of respect being given as we saw at the welcome ceremony yesterday. Quite similar in the formalities. I'm not sure, I think the band is in the back as well. I'm not sure if we'll hear them. But I'm not sure if there'll be an inspection. Did you get that information of an inspection happening, or just a salute?
Just the Guard of Honor is expected here, but you never know. The president may want to have some. And
of course, we're not privy to a lot of for other security and other reasons. Some of it we'll just have to wing it. I think we're getting some audio. Are we?
Yes.
Seems like the national anthem of India. as we look at the visuals from the courtyard of the Assembly Chamber in Kingstown, the House of Assembly, the guard of honor being completed by the members of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force. Earlier you heard the national anthems of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or first of all the anthem Jana Gana Mana, as it's known, the anthem of the Republic of India, which we got a part of into the national anthem of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As we hear the band striking up again in the back, as the president moves outside. I think he wanted to do that first, but he is directed inside. And he'll now move outside to greet those who are waiting on the outside.
Children, he says the children.
He was gravitated to go across to greet the children.
He asked specifically for the children, and the children are there. And he's definitely waving to them as the traffic on that comes to an immediate halt for that to take place. And those children are like, you could imagine the stories they're going to go back to their colleagues with.
I think this is a view from the Window of Parliament. The very famous Window of Parliament overlooking the courtyard.
And I was almost going to say eye in the sky.
No.
No, it's not.
I remember it through the commentaries of the late Jean Duncan, looking through the windows of Parliament.
Yes.
And it became a reality, and on the occasion of a recent live broadcast that the window that she was looking out of.
Yes, we were able to.
And it's that very window we have a camera pointed to the courtyard. So as we have now the President and the delegates,
they will now go up the east stairs, and this is the east stairs leading up to the House of Parliament, and then they will be escorted to the office of the Speaker, where they will congregate. And when the Speaker makes her entrance now into the House of Assembly, the Sergeant at Arms will announce the Speaker who will enter the chamber. And of course, the usual fanfare of trumpets will be sounded, and then the Sergeant at Arms will announce His Excellency the President Ramnath Kovind, and he will then enter the chamber. So the Speaker will then take things from there. The usual will announce, and you'll have the prayer to begin the proceedings, and then they will have the presentations by the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Godwin Friday, and then the President of the Republic of India, the Honorable Ramnath Kovind, will make his speech, and then we will have the adjournment of today's sitting from the House of Assembly. And just some introductions, I suppose, will ensue after that. And then there's basically the dismissal.
And after that, there's a bit of an opportunity for the delegation to refresh themselves for the next
part of
event,
the journey,
which will be one that will be outside for an extended period in terms of and the warmth of the Vincent sunshine for a bit. I'm sure they're used to that, by the way.
Yes.
And that will be in the community of Calder, the latter part of today's function. The visit concludes tomorrow, as a matter of fact. A slight adjustment from initially the 4-day visit that was announced. But nevertheless, another packed day for His Excellency and the delegation tomorrow, going to Canawan, and then, of course, the cocktail reception before his departure in the evening. All part of the visit of the 14th President of the Republic of India, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind. Coverage continues across the various platforms. Again, we welcome those joining us via VC3 Television, Channel 114, on social media pages of NBC Radio, VC3 Television, and the National Broadcasting Corporation. Also joining us, Star Radio, for our coverage as well. We say good morning to you as we approach the afternoon time. Less than an hour away from the afternoon time, so soon we'll be saying good afternoon to you. And those who are viewing overseas, we know that you may be in a different time zone, so if it is afternoon or evening, good afternoon or good evening to you.
I think earlier on I was making reference to the involvement of His Excellency in public service, and for some reason I couldn't find that part of the note, and I'm just going back here, and it's a good time to do it now that we're about to hear him for the very first time since he arrived in country. And it says here that he was actually governor of Bihar before being appointed as President of India. And the president is the second to assume the post of president of India, and he practiced at the Delhi High Court as well as the Supreme Court of India till 1993. In 1994, he became a member of parliament, and he was nominated by the ruling NDA for the post of president and won comfortably, as we said yesterday, in 2017 on the 25th of July when he became president.
And he's actually the first member of the BJP. We hear about it on the news. The Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, who has become president, and of course creating his point in history as well for the others who would follow. We have some shots now of what's happening at the School for Children with Special Needs. Looks to be the arrival of First Lady Savita Kovind, and of course accompanied by her very capable assistant, the close protection officer, who's quite stern in her her executions. We've noted her daughter's there as well. Swati is dressed in what appears to be the white sari in the back,
which was the ceremonial where you wanted to wear today, I am told. Which the white, I should say the white, the male version, right?
Yeah,
I should say the white.
That didn't quite work out, so
right.
So here I am. But the First Lady greeting those who are welcoming her at the entrance to the School for Children with Special Needs. Of course, mentioned being accompanied by other members of the delegation. We're not able to tell you who they are, but we know they're members of the delegation. But we can tell you for certain that her daughter, who is just trailing behind in white, is also part of that visit, and accompanied by the representatives of the security detail and, of course, our local representatives in giving the tour of the school. We continue to see the visuals there. Her Excellency, the Governor General, joining the First Lady for this tour. And momentarily we'll head back to Parliament for the actual commencement of the proceedings there. The First Lady being shown the classrooms of the School for Children with Special Needs, and the daughter seems quite intrigued by what she's seeing, the decor in that particular room.
Oh, these children are huggers. That's they are huggers. I so love this. They are.
And they're excited.
Oh yeah, they're huggers.
The excitement is
and they're going to hug
there.
every member of that delegation. My word. I'm not there, but I'm sure that our camera guys, our videographers will be able to attest to that. They are going to hug every member of that delegation today.
Yes. And I see the First Lady sharing a few hugs as well. And Savita, and Swati rather, the daughter of the President and First Lady. Of course, these are all great photo ops for the visiting media as well. These images are being beamed across the globe back home to the over 1 billion that are watching on across the platforms in India as well. And quite a memorable moment, I'm sure, for these children. And Her Excellency seemed to be quite enjoying the moment as well, in the exchanges and the interactions. And a photo up I see with Swati, and a
so
big
sweet.
hug, a bear hug being shared with Swati, and Her Excellency moving forward as well to have a closer interaction with the children. We continue to bring you coverage across the platforms as you see the visuals for those who are looking on, those who are joining on radio, really missing out on the visuals, but we ask that you too stay with us. You may not be in a position where you can look at the live stream or channel 114, but we'll try to describe what is happening to the best of our abilities, and to give you an idea as to what is happening on the television side. But the excitement is certainly one that we can speak of, looking at the visuals coming from the School for Children with Special Needs. The happening side by side is the function at the House of Assembly, where we saw moments ago the President arriving and the other members of his delegation, and the Speaker of the House, the Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, already present at the chamber to greet His Excellency. And it is expected that shortly, according to our planned program, that event will begin. And once they begin, we'll take you across there for all of the all of the audio and the visuals of that event.
I see some
chocolate bars, it appears, that being presented to the students by the members of the visiting group, Mrs. Coven, First Lady Coven, and Swati. And we hope that wherever you are viewing and listening to us, that you will stay with us for the duration of our continued coverage across the platforms as we bring you coverage of the visit of the President of the Republic of India, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind.
A 7-day visit across the Caribbean on the Caribbean tour. First to the land of wood and water, Jamaica, now to home of the blessed, land of the blessed, Hairuna, all paradise here on earth, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we welcome President Kovind, the First Lady, and their daughter Swati to our island paradise. And I'm sure seeing aspects and the beautiful Grenadine Islands, that will definitely top things off. We certainly live in a paradise called St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and this is our home, and we're happy to share it with the President of India, who's visiting with us until basically tomorrow, his last day here tomorrow on an official 3-day visit. And we welcome them and the delegation in excess of 150 persons who arrived here yesterday.
Yes.
Looks so long ago.
That's
yes, it's just like yesterday.
It feels much longer than
yes,
that.
it does feel like it was a longer time than that. And
yeah. Even the close protection officer getting a hard and the police officer was a bit of an awkward one for the security officers, because they were not expecting to get hugs as well.
What would Colvin do?
I guess they just returned the hugs. I see now a shot from the Assembly chamber. The Honourable Prime Minister is seated, and momentarily we'll hear the audio from our broadcast team who's been preparing for that. And once they're ready, we'll go across to the Assembly chamber. See seated in the back as well the ambassador, who's also in the house for this event, and the security detail accompanying the President also seated in the back, and close protection officer. Prime Minister just having a bit of a side conversation with those who are seated just behind. But in a few moments we'll have the proceedings from the House of Assembly commencing, of course, with the Speaker, the Honourable Speaker of the House, Ms. Rochelle Ford, and then it will be smooth sailing, as we say.
Yeah, and again, I think we're still just about equal time, and just about equal time. I think, in fact, we are probably even ahead of schedule, if I'm seeing correctly.
We are ahead by about 10 minutes according to our official program. And side by side you see the presentation of the check to the charitable foundation that looks out for the interest of the School for Children with Special Needs. And on the other side of your screen, a shot of the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Dr. Godwin Friday.
Who's at the House of Parliament.
Who's at the House of Parliament. The presentation of the check now, as that portion of the visit concludes. I'm not sure, is Her Excellency making her way to Parliament after? Is it that they're waiting for arrival?
I'm not sure. What is happening is that the Speaker, the Speaker. So then we would hear the announcement of the Speaker from the Sergeant of Arms, and then you hear the fanfare, and then also the fanfare as well, and then the announcement of the visiting President by the Sergeant of Arms, and then the visiting President will enter the room. So the Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will accept the check because she's also a patron of
Yes.
the School for Children with Her Excellency is also patron of the School for Children with Special Needs.
Yes.
So that the charitable organization that is headed by the Governor, Her Excellency.
Governor General.
Yes, so that's
Total
why.
of US $25,000 are being handed over to the charitable foundation.
Some much needed funds for the school. I'm sure they have some repairs and some other
Yes.
developmental projects which they will definitely be executing with the release of these funds. Her Excellency makes her way now into her vehicle, aided by her close protection officer.
Very stern.
And I know this is what you're paying attention to in terms of her close protection officer. Yes. How do you treat with that when you just have to go with the flow? And I assume from here on, the First Lady will probably repair to the hotel where she will just do some refreshing, and then a little later on they will all come back to the community of Calder for the next segment of this visit all together.
Yes, and you can depend on us to have eyes on the ground and in the sky at some point during the course of our coverage today, that we keep you in the loop of things. And our teams are on the move, yes. I should say. They're on the move, always on the move.
Always on the move. So the advance team for Calder has left already?
Yes. And that arrangement has been going since yesterday, I believe, in terms of putting things in place for that particular location. And the culmination of all of that today, as they get ready to receive the president and his wife and his daughter, who I believe will also be accompanying him to the community of Calder, particularly to meet those who will be gathering there. I think we have
so let's go now to the House of Assembly.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of men, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this land. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. Amen. Pray, be seated. Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I beg to move on the Standing Order 80 that the standing orders for today's sitting be suspended.
Yes, I'm granting leave for that application. Honorable members, the question is that the standing orders be suspended for today's sitting pursuant to Standing Order 80. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. We now await the entry into the chamber of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of India. His Excellency, Honorable Ram Nath Kovind, President of the Republic of India, Members of Parliament of the Republic of India, parliamentarians all, distinguished guests. When the history of our nation is written, the chapters on parliamentary sittings will be warmly adorned by the memory of this visit, one which brings us face to face at a time when most all else over the past 2 years has been virtual. This magnanimous act is demonstrative of the continuing long-standing friendship between our nations. Mine is the distinct privilege to welcome you, Your Excellency, and persons of your official delegation to the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are indeed elated to host you as our guests. Today is even more special for me on a personal level, as it is the first official visit to our Parliament by a sitting head of state since I was elected Speaker of the House. And for this, I say thank you. The Republic of India over the years has made several financial and technical contributions to the development of various sectors in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And this cooperation and assistance continues. For this, we express our profound and heartfelt gratitude. Your Excellency, the members of the House of Assembly are honored to welcome you and your entire delegation to our most beautiful multi-island state in general and to our Parliament in particular. And we look forward to your addressing this Honorable House. Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, on behalf of our government and people, I formally welcome to St. Vincent and the Grenadines His Excellency Ram Nath Kovind, the President of the Republic of India, his wife, his daughter, and official delegation. I take this opportunity to express solidarity, greetings to my friend, the Honorable Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, his family, his government, and the magnificent people of India. Today is truly historic in the relations between our two countries. It is the first time that the President of India is visiting us. And it is the first time, too, that the head of state or any other high office holder of India is addressing our Parliament. Your Excellency, we are most honored by your esteemed presence. We are thrilled that you have chosen to visit us alongside Jamaica on your current Caribbean journey. This is truly extraordinary. It is of inestimable consequence. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and India are inextricably bound to each other through ties of blood. Our commitment to democratic values and liberty, our stance of non-alignment from hegemonic power blocs globally, our quest for peace, security, and progress for all nations and peoples, and our practical bonds of friendship grounded in high principle and mutual interests. Your Excellency's visit will undoubtedly strengthen further our existing unbreakable ties that bind. Your Excellency, between 1861 and 1881, the records show that 2,472 citizens of colonial India were brought to colonial St. Vincent as indentured servants to work mainly on the plantations owned by Anglo-Saxons. The wrenching crossing of the Kalapani, the taboo of the dark waters from India to the Caribbean, remains for our nationals of Indian descent not only a source of a painful dissolution of identity, but also a resource for an enduring embrace of India and a simultaneous reconstruction of life and living in our Caribbean, in our St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The incubus of British colonialism was unable to defeat or destroy the unconquerable spirit of our indentured brothers and sisters who came to us from the ancient Indian civilization of glory, merit, and worth. Through the fever of our history and the process of creolization, the disparate strands of our population mix, indigenous Kalinago and Garifuna, descendants of enslaved African bodies, of indentured Madeirans and Indians, of the Anglo-Saxon planter merchant elite, and the more recent arrivals from the Middle East. All of these have evolved into an integrated whole, a metaphoric symphony of oneness, in which the occasional dissonances are resolved or muted through informal, even invisible cultural wellsprings or our formal institutions. From all this has arisen a genius of our people, exemplars of social cohesion, inclusiveness, tolerance, and social solidarity in life, living, and production. Your Excellency, daily in innumerable ways, the presence of India is felt in our country beyond the impact of our treasured nationals who are the descendants of indentured servants from 19th century India. Today, professionals from India in various fields, including medicine, engineering, project management, information technology, and teaching, have come to live and work among us. Many have become naturalized citizens of our country. Many have children who are Vincentians by birth. Through the outreach of the Indian government, the Global Organization for Persons of Indian Descent, the Indian Heritage Foundation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and with the active support of the government of our country, the joinder between our two civilizations is deepening and broadening. This is a most uplifting enterprise. We commemorate in remembrance and hopefulness Indian Arrival Day every year in the month of June. And of course, our people have arguments about whether Brian Lara or Sachin Tendulkar is the best batsman of the 21st century. We watch the IPL on TV, and we all have our favorite teams. And many of our people are Bollywood fans. Practically all of us are fond of Indian cuisine. And the list goes on. And on the 21st of June every year, we ought to follow India's lead in embracing the invaluable gift of the International Day of Yoga to aid the unity of our minds and bodies, thoughts and action, health and well-being. Your Excellency, there is a beauty, an amazing grace and wondrous ease in the telling story of the close bilateral nexus between our two geographically distant countries of unequal power, conjoined within the frame of a multilateralism of nobility and compelling congruence. Our Caribbean civilization, including its Vincentian component, is young, searching, and enterprising. That of India is old, revered, and vibrant. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a population of 110,000. India's population is 1.38 billion, marginally second only to that of China. St. Vincent and the Grenadines' landmass is 150 square miles. India's territory covers 1.269 million square miles, the seventh largest in the world. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a gross domestic product of US 870 million. India's is 3.54 trillion US dollars, the fifth largest economy in the world and the fastest growing this year. India is a growing world power which cannot be ignored. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a small island developing state, insisting on its rightful place at the global table. Still, these unequal measures hamper not our close friendship. We work with each other in an equitable partnership in this complicated, challenging world to make our lives more secure, more peaceful, more prosperous, more inclusive for all humanity. Globally, India is supportive of the small island developing states. We share similar perspectives on climate change, on biodiversity, land degradation and desertification. We work closely together at the United Nations on practically every issue arising from the global political economy, including the reform of the United Nations itself, particularly in respect of the structure and functioning of the Security Council. And we are in sync on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the achievement of which both our countries are deeply committed. Further, our bilateral cooperation in education, cultural exchanges, science, technology, health, solar energy, disaster preparedness, quick impact projects, and the arrowroot industry, among others, are very beneficial to our country. And through an initiative with CARICOM, India has offered our region a generous line of credit of US $150 million. St. Vincent and Grenadines is keen on deepening and broadening our relations. Importantly, we have accorded favorable consideration to the establishment of a diplomatic mission in India, a subject that I have discussed with Prime Minister Modi. I expect that this will be effected in 2023. I very much look forward to the informal discussions with Prime Minister Modi on our further work together when we meet next month at the Commonwealth Heads of Government in Kigali, Rwanda. We are in search of investors from India and enhanced trade, particularly through regional initiatives. Your Excellency, Madam Speaker, honorable members, personally, I fell in love with the nobility of the Indian, African, Arab, and Latin American civilizations some 55 years ago. I'm still in love with these. And all the world's civilizations, the majesty of humanity. I was 1 year old when India became independent. I have watched India develop extraordinarily under an array of distinguished leaders, from Jawaharlal Nehru to Narendra Modi. Your Excellency, please inform the people of India that, among other things, India lives in the heart and the mind of the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and of each Vincentian at home and abroad. Long may all this so remain, a unison between the civilizations of India and our Caribbean, our St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome again, Your Excellency, and thank you.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Excellency, Greetings to you and your entire delegation. I extend this welcome to you also on behalf of my colleagues, members of the opposition. We welcome you as the head of state of your great nation, the Republic of India, and as a friend. I trust that your journey here, though long, was buoyed with expectations about what you would see here and who you would greet. And I pray that over the course of your visit, those expectations will be met. And indeed, that you are now already enjoying the warm hospitality of our people. The differences between our countries may seem vast, but what matters most are the things we share that bring us together, ever closer in friendship and mutual cooperation. In a world riven by enmity and strife, often caused by manufactured prejudice and exaggerated fears, we who get along well together must do all we can to promote peace, justice, and harmony in the world. We come from opposite sides of the world. You from the East, we from the West. You are a great and ancient civilization, interrupted by colonial rule, but once more on a path to wonderful things of your own choosing, forged by your own hands. We are a young nation, comprised of the original peoples, Kalinago and Garifuna, and newer arrivals, including Indians, who came during colonial times, and we too are striving to make our way in the world. You are the second largest nation on earth by population. We are one of the smallest. Yet, you honor us by choosing to visit. This tells us that the differences mentioned, though seemingly large, are in fact small matters in comparison with the common values and other things that we share. We share similar institutions of government and a commitment to human rights and democracy. India is the largest democracy on earth, is an inspiration to us, one of the world's smallest. Like you, we believe that despite setbacks from time to time and the constant and often rancorous noises of the process at work, democracy is still the best form of government that humans have yet devised. Let us persist in that belief and continue to work to perfect it in practice. We note the great economic and technological advances your country continues to make. We are grateful for the economic, technical, and diplomatic assistance you have provided over the years. And in particular, we note the timely contribution of COVID-19 vaccines at the height of the pandemic. It is my hope, and indeed my expectation, that these spheres of cooperation and collaboration will expand and inevitably deepen our ties with one another. The contributions in the cultural sphere are no less significant. Colonialism brought our peoples and cultures together over 160 years ago, when Indians were brought here to provide labor for the colonial economic machine. The sinews of those people, their sweat and tears, helped to build this land. The hardships they endured have not been in vain, as their children and successive generations have contributed to our national development. And they have made successful lives for themselves here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Your diaspora, their home. Their arrival is celebrated every year with reverence, enjoyment, and hope. We must applaud and support the efforts of those who seek to reclaim and promote Indian culture here. Noted the Indian Heritage Foundation, which is a far better approach than in the early years when assimilation and cultural annihilation were the order of the day. For after all, we must do more than simply share a common space. We must inhabit it together, shape it together, and make it a thing of joy and beauty, a light to the world. On the lighter side, but no less significant, we share a common love of cricket. Gavaskar, Kapil Dev, and Tendulkar are as much our heroes as Sobers, Richards, and Lara are yours. May the friendly rivalry continue, and may we always be able to appreciate each other's accomplishments. Excellency, I am happy that you will see various parts of our country. La Soufrière volcano in its awesome splendor, and the Grenadines, specifically Canouan, in their pristine beauty. I am confident that you will enjoy the experience. We wish you safe travels in your overseas mission. When you return home, please convey our best wishes and gratitude to your government and people. Thank you.
His Excellency, President of the Republic of India.
Honorable Speaker, Madam Rochelle Ford, Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, Honorable Attorney General, Mr. John D. Martin, Honorable Members, the Clerk of the House, Madam Nicole Herbert, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, ladies and gentlemen. I am grateful to you all for the welcome and hospitality extended to me and my delegation. This is not only my first visit to your beautiful country, but also the first ever visit by a President of India to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am happy to be here among the honorable members of Parliament. Being a legislator entails a deep sense of commitment and dedication in order to realize the dreams and aspirations of our people. India and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have historical relations established by our forefathers years ago, even before our countries had become independent. We are both multiracial societies with a common history of British colonial rule. Our friendship is rooted in our common historical and cultural heritage, as well as our shared values of democracy, inclusion, freedom, and the rule of law. Madam Speaker, our bilateral engagement has blossomed in the last few years. The visit of the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, to India in September 2019 infused new energy into our relations. I am happy that India's development partnership involves various communities in this country. I am glad to note that projects such as the Bakwi market repairs and restoration, the community development project for Glenside village Mariaqua, and the rehabilitation and transformation of the Satwele agriculture depot into a processing and training facility have either been completed or are at an advanced stage of completion. India has stood by St. Vincent and the Grenadines during this COVID pandemic as well. As a symbol of our solidarity with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a shipment of life-saving drugs and protective gear were dispatched at the start of the pandemic. India had also sent made in India Covishield vaccines last year. India engages with the SVG at the regional level in the CARICOM, which has more than 1 million strong Indian diaspora. We appreciate SVG's active participation in the various activities on our agenda with the CARICOM. We deeply value our ties with the CARICOM, which is one of the oldest integration groupings in the region. India will continue to partner with this regional mechanism in addressing the challenges on the front of development and other issues. We live in a world characterized by multiple linkages among nation states and people across the world. Today, more than ever before in human history, the international community is linked together at multiple levels. Modern supply chains make economic interlinkages deep. Technology has no borders. Our families and friends live across the globe, and we all are consumers of global products and services. The transcontinental migration of people, going back many centuries now, adds a special dimension to this global connect. The presence of Indo-Vincentians is a fine example of this connect. People from India who came here in the 19th century as indentured labor subsequently became an integral part of your society. Madam Speaker, today's closely connected world has brought immense benefits to people around the globe through opening up of new markets, new educational and employment opportunities, greater access to information, and new vistas for countries to engage with the outside world. This globalized world order has also brought its own set of challenges. Climate change, political conflicts threatening international peace and security, cross-border terrorism, supply chain disruptions are some of the major global challenges that impact us all. Nation states would have to look beyond their narrow self-interests in tackling these challenges for the well-being of our future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, multilateralism is more relevant in today's interconnected and interdependent world than it was at any time in our shared history. Multilateralism ought to be used as an instrument to promote strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth in all nation states. However, for multilateralism to remain relevant and effective, institutions need to be reformed. Structures and institutions that emerged after the two world wars focused on one major issue, that of preventing another world war. To tackle the complex issues of today, the new world order that we seek to build is to be an inclusive world order, where every country can express its legitimate interests. This can only happen by way of an expanded and better designed representation system in key global institutions. Madam Speaker, it is important, therefore, to ponder upon and examine whether the current world order with the United Nations and its institutions is adequately serving the global community in addressing these complex challenges. Our objective in advocating for an inclusive world order is to promote a universal, rules based, open, transparent, predictable, non discriminatory, and equitable multilateral system. The need of the hour is, therefore, reform of global institutions with the UN Security Council at its core to reflect the contemporary global reality. Madam Speaker, on this issue, India and St. Vincent and the Grenadines share common interest, approach, and understanding. Both our countries are part of the 42-member developing countries platform of the L69 group. This group is actively pushing for reforms of the UN Security Council through an expansion in both permanent and non-permanent categories of membership. Madam Speaker, I congratulate St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the stellar role it played in advocating for a meaningful and time-bound progress in the intergovernmental negotiations process on Security Council reforms during its membership of the Security Council for the years 2020-21. As India celebrates 75 years of its independence, we are taking forward our engagement with the world in line with our philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. In India, my government's motto is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, and Sabka Prayas. That is, together with all, development for all, with everyone's trust and with everyone's efforts. This also demonstrates India's approach in the global arena, which means India believes in an inclusive world order that is sensitive to legitimate interests and concerns of every country and region, irrespective of its size or wealth. We think and act for the future of entire humanity. India has remained steadfast in its commitment to share its experience, knowledge, and skills acquired in its journey of development with fellow developing countries. I am confident that India and St. Vincent and the Grenadines will continue to work closely together in advancing these shared objectives for an inclusive world order. With these words, Madam Speaker, let me thank for giving me an opportunity to address this august assembly. It is an honor for me to be here today on behalf of the world's largest democracy. It was a pleasure sharing my thoughts with you. I wish the people of India and St. Vincent and the Grenadines a very bright future. Thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, of course, the words of His Excellency speak for themselves. I believe that you're asking me to move the motion for the adjournment. And then I think afterwards, after the adjournment, we would be permitted an opportunity for His Excellency to meet the other members of Parliament and interact a little
Yes.
before he moves on. He has a very busy day. Madam Speaker, honorable members, I beg to move that this honorable House do stand adjourned till Monday, June the 20th at 10 a.m.
Honorable members, the question is that this honorable House do stand adjourned to Monday, June 20th at 10 a.m. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House stands adjourned.
Well, thank you very much, and we welcome you back to our broadcast here this afternoon, where we've just had the adjournment of the meeting, the special sitting of the House of Assembly in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a special honor and in tribute to the President of India, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, who, along with Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves and the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Dr. Godwin Friday, made remarks in the House of Assembly. Colvin.
Yes, and quite an eventful occasion on this, or the visit of His Excellency the President. A very comprehensive presentation by all parties involved today at the Assembly Chamber, and as we look at the visuals of His Excellency and his delegation greeting the other members of Parliament who are at that special sitting today. There'll be a moment as well for photographs, as is customary, and then the next major event on our setup would be for this afternoon at Calder.
The Speaker, the Honourable Rochelle Ford, in her remarks did say that today was a very momentous day for her. In the importance of having the Indian President being in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, momentous for her because this is the first time since she has been sworn in as Speaker of the House of Assembly that she's had an Indian president or a president of any kind at all coming to the Assembly chambers here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No doubt saying how important that is for her. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, in his presentation, of course, said that this is an esteemed occasion for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to have him visit St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and spoke of the bloodlines in excess of 160 years of ties in terms of the bloodlines. The Indian presence is heavily felt here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and over the last 2 days we have been speaking about their presence in communities such as Calder, Acres, Richland Park, and the other communities which we have highlighted. The contribution that those who have come to India and have made St. Vincent and the Grenadines their home, their doctors, their teachers, their engineers, and some of our better doctors, no disrespect meant, but I'm just putting that to say
maybe we should
that
say
we
that
have
some of the more prominent
doctors here are actually from India, and they're calling St. Vincent and the Grenadines home, and we want to, of course, and they continue to make an outstanding contribution to the development of this country of ours, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We also spoke about this yesterday, the contribution St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the contribution India made towards the cause of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, towards securing a seat on the Security Council, and they continue to work together in ensuring that we both we're working together in the 17 development, the United Nations 17 Development Millennium Goals, which they continue to work on. And ending it all by speaking of the the possibility, and it's not so much a possibility, but in 2023, that St. Vincent and the Grenadines will have a diplomatic mission in India in 2023, and we expect to have that set up in 2023. India lives in the hearts and minds of every Vincentian, basically. Those were the words from Prime Minister Gonsalves this morning.
And all in all, a very fruitful day thus far, a very productive one for the President and his delegation, and also for the First Lady. We saw the interactions earlier, and bringing to an end the first portion of the day's proceedings, at least until later on this afternoon.
And then it was the turn of the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Dr. Godwin Friday, who highlighted the many areas of collaboration between both countries and how also important it is for His Excellency to be visiting St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and that there are lots of things that bring both of us together as a nation. Of course, his visit is symbolic to us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have many things in common. And highlighting the areas of assistance, and most recently the assistance we receive, especially during that critical time of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, when we acquired the first set of vaccines, the AstraZeneca vaccines, and highlighting the areas of contribution significantly in the areas of telecommunications, which we also highlighted yesterday as part of our broadcast, and given a support to the workings of the local association here in St. Vincent, the Indian Heritage Foundation, which you are a part of. So all these things been highlighted as part of the presentation and the speech here made at the House of Assembly by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday. And then to wrap things up, we had the presentation of His Excellency Ramnath Kovind, the President of the Republic of India, who spoke of how happy he is to be in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this time. And you can also look at that by the interactions which you've seen on his face, especially when he met with the children at the Botanic Gardens this morning, and then coming out to wave with those who had gathered just outside the House of Assembly this morning. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines share a very long and a healthy relationship with India, which was established by our forefathers even before our time. The bilateral and multilateral relationship very strong between both countries, and extending not only to St. Vincent but to the CARICOM countries as well. And we know of the special line of credit program, which is through CARICOM for support and assistance to the countries of CARICOM. And projects, some of the projects which we highlighted yesterday, the creation of the Beckway market, the developments are taking place in Calder, in Glenside, in our Calder, and some of which we will also see when we visit the community of Calder this afternoon, where one of the larger populations of Indian descendants in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are living. Again, reiterating the support offered in terms of providing assistance with the AstraZeneca vaccines, and even when India created their Covishield vaccines, the Indian-made Covishield vaccines, some were sent to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So all in all, very strong presentations from all three leaders this morning. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Dr. Friday, and the President of the Republic of India, His Excellency Ramnath Kovind. Very strong presentations, bringing this formal part of a proceedings here as part of the visit, the official state visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines to an end. We anticipate that before His Excellency go to his car, that if the children are there, after mingling, with the parliamentarians, that he would get an opportunity to also probably just have a conversation or to greet them, or even if it's just to wave.
Right.
These are the things which the little ones tend to have an appreciation, a total abundance of love. I make reference to the visit to the school for children with special needs. That is love in its true sense of the word, warm and affectionate.
A bit of the softer side of the visit.
Warm and affectionate love emanating from the children at the school for children with special needs.
Yes, and quite an eventful morning into the afternoon. It's just gone past the afternoon time as we move on to about 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. According to our schedule, we were supposed to end at Parliament at 12:15, so we're well ahead in terms of our timing, and with that being the case, we anticipate an on-time start to the event at Calder. And this is also where we use the opportunity to wrap up this portion. Of course, all of the various platforms will take care of their various duties during this time. We thank all of those across the platforms. Of course, we list out all of the stakeholders later on as we end off our coverage today from Calder. But thanks to the production teams of VC3, the Agency for Public Information, and the National Broadcasting Corporation, all working together, some 20 plus strong today, to ensure that you have all the visuals and of course the audio coming your way from the studios of VC3 Television in Kingstown. On behalf of all of us, until you hear from us again at Calder at just after 4 o'clock this afternoon, we wish you a pleasant afternoon and that you'll join us then.
Channel 114.